Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. My name is Ann Crawford and I'm the Reference and Adult Services Librarian at the Ponte Vedra Beach Branch Library, and I'm here to talk about new books, which anybody who works with me and even my family knows how much I absolutely love new books. In our library system, our new books are designated by those wonderful blue crates that we have, and I squeal like a child at Christmas whenever they come in the door with our courier. But I also get excited about new books in Overdrive too, because that means they're just one click away on my device from reading something I haven't had a chance to read yet. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I want to talk about the new nonfiction books that we've added to Overdrive, some of which we own in print, some of which are unique to Overdrive, and get you excited about them and wanting you to download them. Now you may be asking yourself, why did I choose nonfiction? Why didn't I choose fiction? After all, we're adding new fiction titles as well, and isn't fiction more exciting than nonfiction? Isn't nonfiction dull and dry? Well, unfortunately, sometimes that's the stereotype of nonfiction, and I hope after today's presentation that stereotype might go away for good, because nonfiction is every bit as exciting as fiction is. It's just different. I mean, you have biographies where you can learn all about people and their lives, both the good, the bad, and just the downright crazy at times. There's all sorts of history books, which are not like boring, dull, dry history books that you might be thinking of. There are timely books that are really helpful to you. There are cookbooks, there are true crime books, there's just about anything you could possibly imagine. Now today, when I go over nonfiction, I want you to know this is only a very small sampling of the new nonfiction titles we've gotten in Overdrive. I'll be discussing some of the true crime titles and the history titles in some later presentations this summer. These are simply the nonfiction titles that I either missed out on sharing about in my presentations in April and May because we hadn't bought them yet, or that they didn't really fit into my topics for June or July. So I really hope that you will enjoy learning more about these books. Get out your device, get out your St. Johns County Library card. If you don't have a St. Johns County Library card and you're a resident of St. Johns County, you're eligible for our free e-card on our website, SJCPLS.org, and it's good for 60 days, and it will allow you to download all of our ebooks and e-audiobooks for free. So like I said, get out that device, get out that card, and let's go. So I thought I'd start out with a perfect title, a title that I very much relate to. Why did I come into this room? A candid conversation about aging. And you probably recognize that face on the cover just as quickly as I did. Joan London of Good Morning America and who knows how many other news shows. And I was immediately drawn to this book, not so much because I think I'm old. I am aging. I don't think I'm quite old yet. But the title, Why Did I Come Into This Room? I can't tell you how many times I have said that to my family and to the co-workers at the Ponte Vedra Beach Branch Library. I'm embarrassed to admit how many times I've said it. Exploded into a room and then promptly forgot why I was there. So I really enjoy this title because Joan London talks about aging and all the kinds of crazy things that happen, particularly to women, and she does so with humor and with grace. And she makes it really personal because she talks about how there are the stereotypes she has faced as a professional when she did an interview with a young man, probably in his early 20s, and he called her up and asked her how she felt about going back on network TV as a senior citizen, and she was in her early 60s. So that was a bit of a stunner right there, but like I said, it's a really enjoyable read because I guess she addresses a topic that is something we're all going to have to face. We're all getting older, but she does so with humor and poignancy. So I think it's definitely worth a try. This is one we also own in print. So like I said, you can request it in print or in Overdrive or both. So our next title, now we're getting into biographies. I absolutely love biographies because they're an opportunity to learn about someone that you might have been interested in, but learn about them in a whole new way. And that's what these three biographies that are coming up really do. So this one is Tell Me a Story, My Life with Pat Conroy. So a wonderful biography by Pat Conroy's wife. Pat Conroy passed in 2016, and she tells about her life with Pat Conroy. You probably know Pat Conroy if you've read him, for the Prince of Tides, Beach Music. My mother says his books make her cry in the best way. And so this is a really wonderful book because you really get to know Pat Conroy, the person, from his wife who loved him for so many years and still does. And this title we also own in print. It's got a bit of a wait list on it, so if you're quick and you get into Overdrive, you might be able to be one of the first people to put a request on the downloadable version and be able to read it right away. So a wonderful, wonderful title. And the next one is brand new. It was published in May 2020, and it's about Natalie Wood. So now you get a different loving perspective of a biography. Instead of a wife about her husband, this time it's a daughter about her mother. So this one was written by Natasha Gregson Wagner, and it's called More Than Love, an intimate portrait of my mother, Natalie Wood. So again, a wonderful opportunity to get to know Natalie as a person who tragically died so young. They still haven't quite figured out what exactly happened there, but no doubt her daughter has many loving memories of her mom. And this biography is very well timed because Natalie is known for West Side Story, and West Side Story will be appearing as a newly conceived movie in December of 2020 this year, and Natalie Wood is going to be a hard act to follow. We watch Miracle on 34th Street every year as a family, the black and white version with Natalie Wood, and so she is beloved in my family. So I'm really looking forward to reading this particular memoir, and this is one we only own in Overdrive. So like I said, get out your device and request it right now. And our next biography, again, got some really good feel-good biographies in here, and that is not a bad thing, especially in times like these. So this is Officer Clemens. If you watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood like I did as a kid, I'm a Gen Xer, but probably our baby boomers remember him a little bit more because they would have been the parents of the Gen Xers. And he was the first African-American actor to be on a children's show. And so that's quite a landmark achievement. And it's really a very heartwarming memoir. And, you know, he was such a kind of a change agent in a way because he broke new ground that no one had ever really broken before as an African-American actor. And so, you know, with the wonderful documentary we had on Mr. Rogers, and then Tom Hanks played Mr. Rogers, this is a perfect companion piece to that. And this is another biography we only own in Overdrive at the moment, so request it today. All right, now we get into some of our self-care books. This is called the SelfCare Solution. I would have mentioned this in my mental health presentation in May, but we hadn't bought the digital copy yet. We had a print copy, and at the time I was focusing just on digital copies that you could get on your device since our libraries were closed at the time. And the SelfCare Solution, a year of becoming happier, healthier, and fitter 1 month at a time. So very manageable. You know, just changing one thing in your life per month. So oftentimes where people struggle is when they try to change everything all at once, or if you go on a fad diet and you try to remove all the sweets from your diet. Generally doesn't succeed because you're trying to take on too much at once. So this is a great title that really gives you an opportunity to succeed, and at the end of the year see how far you've come. And I believe I know we have this copy in print, and I believe it's got some requests on it, so this is an opportunity once again to maybe get at the front of the line by getting this copy in Overdrive. Our next book, again, The Gift of Forgiveness, is an excellent mental health title because one thing that will absolutely improve your mental health is learning to forgive, and not so much forgiving the person who hurt you, giving them forgiveness, but rather giving the forgiveness for yourself and what it does for you. And this was written by Catherine Schwarzenegger Pratt, and you probably recognize those two last names. So here's some pop culture for you. She is the daughter of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver. She's also married to Chris Pratt now. And like I said, it's a really powerful story because it's inspiring stories from those who have overcome the unforgivable. So it inspires you because you read it and you realize someone was able to forgive this. Maybe I can too. So again, we own this one in print. It's got some requests on it, so be one of the first ones to nab it in Overdrive. All right. I want to make sure we get to all of these titles so that you have a chance to request them. And remember, when you go into Overdrive, there is a way to search what's new in books, and then you can narrow it down by nonfiction. And you'll not only see all these titles, you'll see all the titles that I haven't mentioned yet, because I haven't done my true crime presentation yet, and I haven't done my history presentation yet. So definitely do that. Browse new in books and then nonfiction. So this is the Campus Cure, a parent's guide for mental health and wellness for college students. We own a physical copy of this, but we now own it in Overdrive as well. So incredibly important. There's so many transitions that happen during the time that a child graduates from high school and goes off to college, whether it's vocational school or computer college, a four-year college, a college in another state or another country. It's a big, big life change. And your early 20s, unfortunately, are also a time where mental illness can, I wouldn't say rear its ugly head necessarily, but can become a factor. And sometimes it's hard to discern what is simply homesickness and getting used to college and what is mental health. So this is a great guide for parents to help their kids who are now adults through that transition time. And I think it's so important because suicide rate amongst college students is far higher than we ever have wanted it to be. So these kinds of titles are really great about what parents can do to best support their kids who are now in college so they can have a really wonderful experience and a long, long life after that. So great, great title. And on the other side of that coin, I said that the kids have to have a big transition in their life, and it's a big life change, and that comes with a lot of turbulence. Well, so do the parents. If this is your last child going off to college, or your only child going off to college, and now you're dealing with empty nest syndrome, and that's a thing too. That's a big thing for parents and mental health. So this is Happy Nest, Finding Fulfillment When Your Kids Leave Home. So an invaluable title, especially over the summer when the big change is coming up, possibly in the fall, to start thinking about how are you going to re-envision your life to give yourself new purpose. Because you never stop being a parent, but you're not a parent in the same capacity as you were. So how are you going to redirect your life to find that fulfillment? So we own this one in print, and now we own it in Overdrive, and I highly recommend it because, like I said, that's a big life change for parents too, not just the kids. All right, so let's see what we've got here. Oh, welcome to adulting. As you know, I did an Adulting 101 class in May, and we didn't have this title yet, but now we do. The Adulting 101 titles that I went over in that presentation were very broad-reaching in terms of anybody can pick it up and read it. And it's not to say that everyone can't pick up this title and read it, but the distinction here is this comes from a very Christian perspective, as it talks about navigating faith, friendship, finances, and the future. So if you were looking for a faith-based title for adulting, then this is your ticket. And as I said in my Adulting 101 presentation, adulting is a verb. It's not a destination. So don't be fooled into thinking, oh, adulting, that's just for, 20-something. Oh no, we're constantly adulting. You don't get to a place at a certain age and say, well, that's it, I've arrived. There's nothing new for me to learn. Absolutely, there's something new for you to learn. I'm still adulting to this day. So again, this is a great title if you're looking for a faith-based interpretation of what adulting means. And we only own this one in Overdrive, so you can check it out on your device right now. All right, so the stressed years of their lives. Again, I'm making college sound like it's a really tough and difficult and not so fun time. Not necessarily true. College can be an incredible time. It's just a time of a lot of change. So that's where the stress comes in. Unlike in high school, where your teachers may remind you when a paper is due, remind you when a quiz is due, hold your hand to a certain extent, they don't do that in college. You're paying them. No longer are you required to go to school. You're paying for the opportunity to be there. So the professor hands you a syllabus, and it has all the dates of the quizzes and the tests and the papers, and they don't say another word about it. They get along with it, they get on with their business of teaching you, and it's entirely up to you to keep up and make sure that you're getting things done when they need to get done. So that's where some of the stress can come in, and the social interactions and things like that. So this is helping your kids survive and thrive during their college years. So again, a great title for parents, especially over the summer before they go off to college in the fall, about what sorts of things you can do both before and during their time in college to support them the best way that you can. All right, so our next title, middle school. And I only chuckle because if there's something tougher out there than adapting to college, believe it or not, it might be middle school. I know that sounds crazy because you think, well, but you're moving out and living in a dorm and you have a roommate and college is so different, you could be in a different state, and that's all true. But middle school is its own animal. So it seems fitting that this title was published in May of 2020 and it's a must read. And we only own it in Overdrive, and then they stopped talking to me, making sense of middle school. So if you've got a rising 6th grader, read this title, because this is going to get you up to date on not only what continues to be challenging about middle school, but all the new things about middle school that are challenging with the digital revolution that we have, that Gen Xers like myself did not have to deal with when we were in middle school. Middle school was tough enough as it was. It's a bit tougher now. So this is going to give you some great ideas about how to approach some of those tricky topics, how to talk to your teen who may or may not want to communicate with you, and how to navigate some of those hurdles. And again, this title is owned just in Overdrive, so check it out today. All right, now away from school, we're going to get into internet safety. That was my first presentation that I did at home, was internet safety for adults, and it's every bit as relevant now as it was 2 months ago. This title we only own in Overdrive. It's called Cyber Smart: 5 Habits to Protect Your Family, Money, and Identity from Cyber Criminals, and so incredibly valuable. We have people sending out fake stimulus checks, running scams on unemployment, doing all sorts of despicable things. My phone is blowing up with phony numbers calling me with all sorts of scams, and my inbox is filling up with all sorts of emails with links that I don't dare click. So there's a lot of that right now. Unfortunately, when you're in the middle of a turbulent time, the people who are out there that are dishonest love to take advantage of that opportunity. So now more than ever, it is so important for you to get one step ahead of the criminals out there trying to get your information and get your money and scam you. So I really, really recommend this title, because even if you think, oh, well, I'm really cyber savvy and everything like that, we can all use a brush up. It never, ever hurts. So this is a very good title. And the next one ties into what I was talking about in my internet safety presentation for adults, a social media survival guide. And this is very relevant too, because now more than ever, people are using social media to connect with the social distancing and we're being discouraged to gather in crowds and things like that. Social media is probably more popular now than it's ever been, because it's a way to continue to connect, which is such a vital part of our humanity. However, with social media connection comes great responsibility. You don't want your information just out there for anyone to take advantage of. And you want to be careful about the things that you post, because you're creating your digital footprint either for yourself or for your kids and grandkids. So this is another great brush up on making sure that you've got your privacy settings the way that you want them on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, that you're aware of the kinds of scams that are out there, so you know how to spot them, you know how to stop them dead in their tracks. So a very worthwhile title, very relevant right now. But the two titles I have coming up may be even more relevant than the last two I talked about, because of course we have Coping with Coronavirus, How to Stay Calm and Protect Your Mental Health. Unfortunately, this is a real thing. The social distancing, the not gathering in crowds, the washing your hands, those are all things designed to protect your physical health, which is incredibly important, don't get me wrong. However, there's also your mental health, particularly if you live alone and you're feeling incredibly isolated. This title is going to be really valuable to you to find ways to make sure you're preserving your mental health during which is an unprecedented time in our history. So I really recommend checking this out and seeing if you're doing all the things for yourself that you need to, because again, as I've mentioned in my mental health presentation, if you're not taking care of yourself, you really can't take care of anyone else. So you have to put yourself first. And the next one to do with the coronavirus, a big red cover, Coronavirus Pandemic Survival Guide. This one's 101 Ways to Thrive Physically, Financially, Emotionally, Despite COVID-19 Chaos. Now, the physically part, like I said, is very important because that's the part to do with the virus. But the emotionally and financially part are also equally important, because we have many people who are on unemployment or who can't work and are emotionally feeling stressed out, either for themselves, for their spouse, for their kids, for their livelihoods. I mean, there's just a lot to deal with right now. So this is a really great title to help you find some ways, some practical ways to deal with an unprecedented situation. So I definitely recommend it. We've got a coronavirus title in Overdrive right now for kids, and I recommend that one if you have children or grandchildren. But these are two titles for adults, because again, you can't take care of your kids and grandkids if you don't take care of yourself first. All right, so next, this one, also a red title, is a little bit more broad because it's Emotional First Aid, How to Feel Better in Times of Crisis. So now we're not just talking about coronavirus, we're talking about any kinds of crisis, big life-altering events, the sudden death of a spouse, a divorce, losing your job, any number of things that can be just completely and utterly unsettling and rock you to your foundation. This is a great title of what you can do to feel better during a time where you just feel like the earth is just moving right under your feet. So again, a little bit more of a broad title, not specifically aimed right at coronavirus, but every bit as important to help you get through a tough time. And these are tough times, so these are good titles for us to have in Overdrive. And all three of those titles are only owned in Overdrive, so definitely check them out today and put yourself first. Now, on a lighter note, Conversations with Mark Frost. How many of you know Mark Frost? Maybe you know him from Hill Street Blues, maybe you know him like I do from Twin Peaks, and from other things that he's done on TV. Unfortunately, poor Mark Frost ends up living in the shadow of the incredible David Lynch, who is, you know, kind of the auteur of movies. And unfortunately with that, what ends up happening is people put Twin Peaks, one of my favorite shows, as David Lynch's Twin Peaks, and it's not. It's David Lynch and Mark Frost's Twin Peaks. So this is an opportunity for Mark Frost to get the spotlight. This book was published this year, and in addition to the David Lynch titles that we have in the system, including his autobiography, now we also have this book, so we can learn a little bit more about Mark Frost and what he's contributed to television and to movies. So, an interesting read. Like I said, if you're a fan of Twin Peaks like I am, I watched it in the 90s with my parents, and then of course I watched The Return when it came back in 2017. I'm still hoping maybe we'll get a season 4. I think this should be a really interesting read. The books over in the 790s are all about the performing arts, so if you're interested in, you know, all the different kinds of shows and movies out there like Game of Thrones and things like that, that's where those kinds of books are. So the next one This one may be dedicated to me. How Not to Be a Hot Mess. A survival guide for modern life. How did they know? How did they know? Well, this is a little bit of the story of my life. So, you know, sometimes it's nice to know that you're not the only hot mess out there and that there's help for you. So if you're feeling a little bit out of control and life is just feeling upside down, topsy-turvy, which I'd be surprised right now if it's not, then this is a great title for you. A lot of fun, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but also helping you kind of get your life a little bit back under your control. So kind of a self-improvement and a reassuring title. So lots of fun. We only own this one in Overdrive, so if you're a little embarrassed about having a hot pink cover that says you're a hot mess, the wonderful thing about Overdrive is unless someone's peeking over your shoulder and reading the words on your page, no one knows what you read on your device. So it's private. So if there's ever a title where you're a little hesitant to check it out because you're not sure you want everybody to see the cover, it's a little personal, I really recommend ebooks for that, because it's a way to read some things that are maybe really important to you, maybe really life-changing for you, that for any number of reasons you might feel a little self-conscious about. All right, so we're in the home stretch here. Divergent Mind, thriving in a world that wasn't designed for you. So this is for the person whose mind maybe doesn't work like the average bear, like mine. As I mentioned in my mental health presentation, I struggle with ADHD. I have since I was a kid. So I have a bit of a divergent mind, and many other people do for any number of reasons. So this is a great title to help you figure out how maybe your brain or your mental health kind of runs your life and what kinds of things you can do to best keep yourself heading down the road the direction you want to go. And kind of as a companion title to that book, we had the Healthy Brain Book, an all-ages guide to a calmer, happier, sharper you. Well, I love everything about that. I want to be calmer. I want to be happier. I want to be sharper. There are days that I feel like I'm tarp as a shack instead of sharp as a tack. So this is a great one. I see two things it mentions about me: depression and ADHD. Those are two things I struggle with, but also managing anxiety and preventing and reversing dementia and Alzheimer's. So a very valuable book that just came out in May. Dr. William Sears wrote the book. We only own it in Overdrive. So again, check it out today. So that's our nonfiction books that are not included in my future presentations. So that's only just a slice of the incredible nonfiction that you could go ahead and download today to your device with your St. Johns County Library card or your free e-card on SJCPLS.org. And last but not least, I want to remind you to please share, like, and comment on this video. The more we can get it out, the more people will know about the new nonfiction books we have to offer and the way that you can access them with a St. Johns County Library card or a free e-card. Help us go viral. If you will, let us know in the comments if there's any kinds of presentations that you'd like to hear about in the future, because we're always interested in what more you'd like to know about. And last but not least, let's see if I can get it going the right way. As I mentioned, this video airs on Facebook. We have our adult presentations at 3 o'clock on Monday through Friday. And then all of our videos are archived on Facebook. But all of our videos are also archived on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and you search SJC Library Vid, again, that's SJC Library Vid, then you can see not only this presentation, but all the presentations we've done since the middle of March of this year. And there may be several that for any number of reasons you didn't get a chance to catch. I highly recommend that you watch them. They're all free programming for you. We've got virtual story times Monday through Friday. We've got kids programs Monday through Friday, adult presentations Monday through Friday, a book before bedtime Monday through Friday. So we're trying to do every bit we can to connect with our patrons. So thank you again for joining me today. I hope that you're well. I hope that you stay safe. And I hope that you'll join me and my colleagues for our future presentations. Have a great day. Happy reading.